Hey everyone, Ryan here at eTrailer. Today on our 2021 Tesla Model Y, we're going to be showing you how to install the CURT Trailer Hitch receiver. Before we do that though, let's take a minute, check this one out, and even compare it to some of the other hitches that are available. So with that said, if you're looking to use hitch-mounted accessories, or maybe even pull a small trailer around with your Model Y, you're going to need a way to do that, right? And that's where a trailer hitch is going to come into play. And with this particular one, I feel like it's going to be a great option for those of you looking to do those types of things while still maintaining, a good appearance back here. I say that because the hitch is going to sit behind your fascia and behind this removable panel here. So with this hitcho, one of the things is that the panel remains completely stock. There's no handle mechanism or anything like that on it. So it's real easy to put in, right, to hide it. Just snaps into place. But when you go to take it out, you'll have to work it out of there. One of the things, if you end up going with the hitch like this, I recommend getting a little trim tool, and that'll make it a lot easier to get removed. By kind of prying up on it here, working it back out. So it's really cool that you're able to do that, but as you can see, if you're going to be constantly taking an accessory in or out, you'd probably end up just leaving this off, kind of defeating the purpose. But I think it would be really good for those of you that, let's say, might leave a bike rack in for the riding season, just leave it in all the time, and that's really all you're doing with the hitch. Whenever it's off season, you pop the cover on, and not really a huge deal, right? You can't see the hitch at all. It'll stay protected from the elements and things like that. Not really a huge deal to have to do this one or two times, a few times a year. On the other hand, some of the other hitches, like the Eco Hitch, they have you modify this piece, and they have little handles on there that make it a lot easier to remove and pull right out, getting access quickly to the hitch. But it's all just going to depend on what you're looking for. If you don't want to modify this and see a big handle or anything, then this is a good option. If that's not going to bother you, you want to put the panel back often, use the hitch a lot, and don't really mind that handle, then the Eco Hitch might be a better solution. The hitch is going to have a 2" by 2" receiver tube opening, super common size, and so a lot of stuff should work with it. And it's going to use the standard 5/8 pin and clip. You have to kind of reach in there to get that in place, but that's pretty much standard for all the hitches for the Model Y, just something you kind of have to deal with. Hitch doesn't come with a pin and clip. If you need one, not a huge deal. You can always get it here at eTrailer. A lot of times too, if you end up buying a new accessory, it'll come with one. And the safety chain openings, where you put the hooks from your safety chains on your trailer, they're tucked up here a little bit. Kind of hard to see, but not too bad to get to. And just about any size hook should be able to reach up there and clamp onto it. As far as the weight capacities go, the hitch is going to give us some pretty good numbers, and that's one of the differences with this one compared to some of the others. It has some higher capacities. But the maximum gross tongue weight rating is going to be 525 pounds, which would be the amount of weight pushing down on the hitch. And that's good for just about any size bike rack or cargo carrier, to give you an example there. And for the maximum gross trailer weight rating, it's going to be 3,500 pounds, or the amount of weight pulling on the hitch. So that will be the weight of your trailer, plus anything that you might have in or on it. I do always like to suggest it's always a good idea just to check with your vehicle's owner's manual. That way you can make sure your Tesla can handle that amount of weight safely. Grab a couple measurements now, and these will help us figure out what type of accessories will work the best. So if you go from the ground to the top inside edge of the receiver tube opening, that's going to be about 15 inches. So you can probably use items that have a straight shank, or even some with a rise in it. Buy a little more ground clearance back here. Either way, I think you'd be fine. If you go from the center of the hitch pin hole to the edge of our rear bumper, That's going to be about 6 inches, which really isn't too bad considering that the hitch is kind of tucked up underneath the vehicle. But if need be, you can use that to help figure out exactly if any of those folding type accessories that you might have can be stored in that upright position without hitting the back of your Model Y. Other than that, pretty nice trailer hitch. You know, it's going to be great for those of you that are looking for something that is heavy duty and trying to maintain a completely stock appearance on the back of your Model Y. As far as the installation goes, believe it or not, it really wasn't too bad. It was definitely a little time consuming because you have to take a lot of stuff apart. You know, the fascia has to come off and everything, but it really wasn't complicated. You know, a lot of the fasteners are pretty easy to get to, really no crazy tools needed or anything along those lines. So if you set a little bit of time aside, something you should probably be able to get done. If not, you don't want to mess with it, have the place or time to work on it, you can always use our dealer locator network, and that can help you find a shop in your neighborhood that can do something like this for you. But if you're going to do it, hang around, we'll go ahead, pull into the garage, and get started on it now. To begin our installation, we're going to be underneath the back of our Tesla, and we'll have this big underbody panel that we need to remove first. And there's several fasteners. 6 of them are going to be this push pin style. We'll have 3 on each side. And I want to mention from this point on, whatever we do to one side of our vehicle, we'll also do to the other side. Set up the same way. But to get these out, you can just use a flathead screwdriver, pry underneath the head, pull the whole base out. We'll do that same thing for these ones here. Sometimes too, if you happen to have a trim tool like this, it'll make it a little bit easier to get some extra leverage to get them worked out. Moving to your wheel well behind your rear tire, there's going to be 4 more push pin fasteners. So we'll do the same thing to get all these removed. You can grab a 10mm socket now, and we're going to have a handful of these bolts here that just kind of run around the whole edge of the panel and get all these removed. We're going to have a couple more towards the center here. And I believe that's all of them, so we'll try to separate our panel here. Just kind of pulling it forward. Might actually help too. This panel is kind of holding it up. If you remove a couple of those, it might give us some more room there. Should make it a little bit easier to get this kind of pried out. So we get that front part down, pull towards the front, this whole panel drop out of position, we'll set it to the side for now. What I like to do now is just take some painter's tape and put it all around the areas that we're going to be working. That way we just don't, accidentally scratch anything. But we need to release this piece of wheel well trim here, maybe about halfway up or so. And to do that, I just kind of start to grab it and work it a little bit. And then if you kind of grab it and start to push it forward, you can take a little trim tool, something along those lines. Start to kind of work it free. There's some plastic fasteners in here. And if you kind of just work your way around, you should be able to get them to release. Other times you might have to come in with a little screwdriver or something and just help them out. This is about where we need to pull it up. And I like to just take a piece of foam or a paper towel or something, kind of jam it in there to keep this pulled away. And the reason that we did that is to not only release this from our fascia, but also to get access to this bolt here. I grabbed an 8mm socket. Go ahead and get this removed. We are going to need to remove our taillights, so a few things that we need to do inside to get access to them. We'll remove this floor covering here, get that out of the way. And then we can remove this piece. This is a threshold piece, and a lot of times these are just kind of snapped into place. Take a little trim tool or something and start to work down. I'm just popping this free, releasing all those clips. If one happens to fall out or come out like this one here, not a huge deal. You just take it, pinch it, slide it back in. We'll go ahead and move this floor covering out of the way too. I'm just going to push it up like that, and then we'll have these little side pieces that you just pull straight up on. We'll get both of those removed. We've got a couple more push pins. We'll have one right here. Try that out. And then this one right here. Once you pull that one out, you should be able to grab this piece. We'll slide that out of the way as well. You can start to kind of pry on our panel here to separate it. And just going to use a trim tool. Let's get everything unsnapped. And what we're trying to do is just get it out far enough, that way we can get access to the fasteners holding our tail light in place. We're gonna have two fasteners in here, these little 8mm nuts. Go ahead and get these removed. There's also a connector in here that we'll have to unplug. I think what I'm going to try to do though is actually get the light pulled out. Some and unplug it that way. so it's you can see what's going on a little bit better. Well, these little caps right here you need to remove, and they'll pull up if you work it like this, and it helps sometimes. What I did earlier, sprayed a little soapy water down here, and that allowed this just to pull right off. Actually, sometimes you might have to get a tool like this and help pry it off. What you can do now, take the light and just start to kind of lightly work it back and forth, and should be able to pull this out. It feels like that connector inside might actually be holding it up. I don't want to force it out and break anything. So being that it's extremely difficult to see, I'll unplug it. Then we can pop our light out and I'll show you how you can unplug that connector. Here's a look at that taillight connector. You'll see a red tab on there, and you'll pull that tab all the way out like that. And while you're pulling this out, you can apply backward pressure to it to release this connector from the tail light. So now we should be in good shape, and like I said, spraying a little bit of soapy water down in this area helps out a lot, because these little pins are just pressed into these pockets, and over time they can kind of just get hung up. So a little bit of moisture there to help lubricate it makes this much easier to get removed. Tail light out of the way now. That exposes a 10mm head bolt that we'll go ahead and get removed. To actually get the fascia removed, it's just going to be pushed into these little snaps here, kind of all along the edge. You can start at the edge where your wheel well liner or wheel well begins. If it's really tight, I like to start up here. Doesn't really matter, but you can use that soap water trick again, and definitely helps just loosen everything up a little bit. We'll just work our way down here. Just carefully kind of start to peel this back, and then usually once you get to about here, this corner, that's when we'll have to start moving from this edge up. It's going to work the same way. Let's work our way down, get everything unsnapped. Just take your time with this. That way you don't break any clips or anything. They're stronger than you think, but you got to be careful when you're trying to kind of pry on them. So with this side free, do the same thing to the other side. It's definitely easier if you have someone that can help you with this part, but we're just going to continue to kind of pull the fascia off, and you'll probably have an electrical connector. In our case, it looks like we do over here on the passenger side. This red tab, pull back on it, and then push down there to disconnect it. And with this free, we can set it off to the side. We can grab a 10mm socket now, and we have this sensor bar here. You can remove it. There's 4 10mm head bolts. Pull all these out. And we should be able to pull this away from our vehicle. We're just going to kind of set it up in the rear hatch for now. We'll get our bumper beam removed. So up top we have one 15mm head nut. And on the bottom we'll have 2 of them. I removed the ones on the driver's side already, so I'm just holding a little force on the beam, and I take this last one off. That should be the last thing hold it in place, which it is, so we'll just slide this off the back of our Tesla. We'll grab our hitch now, and this is going to take place of our bumper beam. So this is going to slide on the existing studs. We'll take our factory hardware and get all these started hand tight. I'm going to make sure that the hitch is centered now, because when the bolts are hand tight, you can move it from side to side a little bit. So just center it up, and once you're happy with that, then we can snug all this hardware down. You want to make sure to come back with a torque wrench and tighten it down completely to the amount specified in the instructions. Now that the hitch is installed, we can put everything back together the opposite way that we removed it. And if I happen to run into any issues or things like that during this, we'll touch base on it and kind of go from there. One thing I thought about before putting the fascia back on, since the hitch is going to live behind this little removable panel, if you've never had it off before on your vehicle, before you put the fascia on, it'd probably be a good time to remove it. That way you can at least kind of break it free and just be a little bit easier, you know, in case it's really stuck on there good. But what you can do, you know, just push down on these tabs and that'll free it up. And you know, once you take this off once or twice, it'll continue to get easier from then on out. And of course, you know, you're going to be able to remove this from the outside as well, but just to give you a better look at what's actually going on in here. Don't forget to plug any of your electrical back in. We'll get this fascia snapped back in place. Got everything put back together, didn't run into any issues or snags, so we're in good shape. And with all that done, that'll finish up our look at and our installation of the CURT Trailer Hitch receiver on our 2021 Tesla Model Y.